Hello, welcome everybody to today's Sunday coffee sessions. It is lovely to be with you again here where we're doing some interviews with some inspiring healers and astrologers who are working with me at Guiding Star. I hope you've all got your coffee. I've got mine handy. Actually, it's a tea this time. Robyn, do you have yours? Bonus.
Yes.
She's got her coffee too. I'm really excited to introduce you to the wellness practitioner, the past life regressionist Robyn today, but I'm going to give you a bit of background before I hand over to her. So she'll be sitting there sipping her tea or coffee in the background. But since I went through my own dark night of the soul back about, well, it was nearly 10 years ago now, I've always had this dream to be able to share wellness practices with people who are going through their own dark period of their journey. And this became very, very important to me during my own, like I said, dark night of the soul, when I was searching for answers and I was searching for healing and I was searching for catharsis on my journey. And so I'm really thrilled to be able to offer the practices of these wonderful people joining with me at Guiding Star to help people find their own sources of healing and restoration during their difficult times. And certainly in 2020, it is a time when we're all kind of looking for those answers and those healing practices. Now, astrology, that's what I do. I'm an astrologer, but it's wonderful at providing sort of mental, logical answers, like explanations for why things are the way they are. And we do remedies in astrology as well. And we can provide wisdom and preparedness for the future, as well as looking at the past for answers and insight. But some of the things astrology can't do is actually heal past life karma. We can learn about our past life experiences in astrology, and we can make sense of things, and that's very cathartic and very important thing to do, but it takes a lot more than that to actually heal the wounds that go deep into our subconscious and our psyche. Currently in the stars, Pluto and Jupiter are together, and that's why we've seen so much upheaval, or one of the reasons. There are other reasons too, but that's one of the reasons why we've seen so much upheaval in the world this year. Because what Pluto represents trauma, and Pluto represents cataclysms. He's the god of the underworld, and he represents the journey of human beings into the dark night of the soul. He also represents transformation as well. So that's one of the things he represents. But while he is always representative of the difficulty, he's also the antidote to the difficulty, funnily enough, because Pluto represents therapy. Pluto represents looking deep into the psyche, deep into the subconscious. Pluto represents doing past life regression. He rules past life regression work and energy healing work and shamanic work. So Pluto rules all those things. And Jupiter is currently with Pluto in the sky, so Jupiter amplifies whatever it touches. Jupiter makes bigger whatever it touches. So we are now all experiencing lots of crisis, but also lots of need to experience catharsis through therapy, through regression work, through healing, through shamanic work that is going to get rid of our past life wounds that are stuck like arrows in our deep psyche. So never has there been a better time to be looking at work like this, like what Robyn provides as a source of healing. So it's with great excitement that I want to share a little bit about, well, briefly my journey, as brief as possible. I don't want to keep Robyn sitting there all day without being able to talk. Briefly about my journey and how we met. Back in 2012, I think it was, I'd been sort of a year and a half, 2 years out of my separation and divorce, and was very, very low. And I ended up going for a job in Melbourne, and I had went and stayed at Robyn's B&B that she hosts. And that's where we first met. And at the time I had bleach blonde hair. I was trying to dress like Marilyn Monroe. And I don't know if you remember that, Robyn. I was in a bit of a state. And Robyn and I sat down over the breakfast that she provided at her B&B, and we just had a chat for, it must have been nearly an hour or two, talking about spiritual things and insight and wisdom, and we just really clicked, and it was such a wonderful experience, just that conversation with me. And in that conversation it came out that Robyn was a practicing past life regressionist. Now, because of my very religious upbringing, that sort of activity was always a bit tut-tut and taboo, and you don't go there, and it's nasty and it's evil and all these terrible things. But I was intrigued. I thought, this is so interesting. Everything that I've thought was the way the world works has turned out to not be the way the world works based on how I was raised. And so maybe there is something in regression work. Maybe there's something there that I have been missing, all my life, and maybe I should look into it more. So I got to thinking about it and exploring my own new spiritual path over the next couple of years. And it was in 2014 that I got up the courage to actually have a regression session with Robyn. It took that amount of time for me to sort of be prepared in my soul to take that next step. And I had a regression with Robyn. I might talk about it a little later in this conversation. But I had a regression and it changed my life. It was incredible. And I almost can't find words to explain what it did for me and how much it healed me of a lot of wounds. Maybe I might briefly... No, I'll talk about it a bit later. I want to get Robyn on stage quicker instead of having her sit there. But it just healed me like nothing has ever done before, and tremendous catharsis, tremendous insight, finally big aha moments. And one of the things I found was that instead of being told this was your past life and this is what you experienced by somebody else, I experienced it for myself. And that was the true power I felt in it, because I knew it was real and I felt it, the emotion of that past life regression more strongly, more profoundly than anything, maybe even more than what I have experienced in this actual physical incarnation. It was just that powerful. So that was how we met, and I've had another regression since, and I'm hoping to do many more with Robyn in the future. So I'm very thrilled to have Robyn working with me now on the platform and offering her services to people. And without further ado, I want to... Oh, I should mention one other thing. Sorry, Robyn, you're sitting through this spiel. But one thing I found out recently from Robyn is that she's trained with Patricia Walsh, who I find just so inspiring. I have this book on my shelf called Understanding Karmic Complexes. It's dog-eared like crazy. It's got tags everywhere because I read it like my Bible, and it's such a fantastic book. And when I found out Robyn has been trained by Patricia Walsh, who is an astrologer, and she's done so much research correlating astrological charts with past life regression experiences of her clients, it's just phenomenal, the linkages between what we experience in our past lives and what shows up in an astrological chart. Her work is profound. Can't recommend Patricia Walsh highly enough. And I'm thrilled to be working with you, Robyn, who has trained with Patricia Walsh. And now I will draw my big introduction to a close and introduce you to everyone. Welcome to the channel, Robyn. Thank you for joining me.
Oh, I'm just so pleased to be here. As you spoke about our first chat and then the past life work that I did with you, I just felt this incredibly deep emotion come up, because that's what excites me, that it makes so much difference to a person's life. This is my passion. This is why I'm here. And it is a wonderful journey. Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, it was just so beautiful to me that I felt a resonance with you when we had that first conversation, because it was a scary thing to do for me to take that step into past life regression. And it was very important to me that I felt held you're a very caring, nurturing woman. And that was just... I felt safe with you. I felt at home with you. I felt sort of, if you want to excuse the term, but mothered by you in that space when we did the regression. And that made it so much more, able to, I could go into that space much more easily than feeling at odds with the person who is leading the regression. But we will talk about regression and how it works a little bit later as we go in. But actually we might talk about it now. Do you want to tell us a little about what past life regression is? People might be a bit
understanding what regression is, and the work I did with Patricia Walsh was called Deep Memory Process, but it's all about regression. So when we understand that past life wounds actually equal present day issues, or if we want to look the other way, present day issues equal past life wounds. So it's quite cyclical when you think of it from that perspective. So we also realise that past life selves are not only characters in past life dramas, they actually live within us right now as sub-personalities. And they're all about unfinished business. You know, we're here on a soul's journey and we desire to meet what is this unfinished business? How do we desire to work with that? And we have chosen to come to our present lifetime. We choose our parents, we choose our families, we choose the situations to explore. We are here to explore the blueprint of our soul's journey. It's all about advancing soul's growth. That is our reason for having a human experience. So we're asking, who am I? Why am I here? And where am I going? And the other thing is, I'm sorry.
No, go right ahead. Go right ahead.
Yeah. The other thing is that we're actually not a victim. We're a volunteer. We actually have made the decision as a soul to come into the particular body we're in this lifetime to have our journey. It is not a victim journey. And we've been taking this journey over myriads of lifetimes.
Yes, in shamanic astrology, they believe that we're on a 26,000-year cycle as a soul. Yeah. And of course, you can have bazillions of lifetimes in 26,000 years.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I have on one occasion met a new soul who had not had any lifetimes, only on one occasion. And
how are they finding it? How are they coping with Earth?
He had been fascinated all his lifetime. He followed a lot with Edgar Cayce, and he really wanted to know, why am I here? It was like a confusion for him because he hadn't experienced anything else. It was very exciting, very exciting.
Yeah, what a thrill. I bet you could tell some stories, Robyn, about what you've seen.
And each journey is so incredibly different. You know, each one is unique. It's unique to that person. And that's what's exciting, because each time you do a regression, you're meeting something new yourself each time. I'm learning too.
Yeah.
It's a flow back and forth. Absolutely. Yeah. So also understanding that our body is the vehicle for carrying soul. And I often describe the situation when soul decides to come back for a lifetime. It's a little bit like you're standing there, you're looking at all these people either side of you and you're going, oh, they're going to be, so they're souls, they're going to be in my lifetime. Oh, I look forward to meeting you. Oh, you're going to be there too. Oh. And then at point of conception, we enter the baby in utero, and then there's amnesia. So we journey. There can be quite significant moments as the baby grows, as the little soul grows. So in utero, can be experiencing quite profound moments. I know that personally from my journey back this lifetime. And then we have birth. We choose the family, we choose the situation, the journey is there for us to have. The only thing as a human that we had that can take us off our pathway is that we also have free will.
Yeah.
So we can actually decide to follow what we're offered, or we can take roadways off in different directions. And that's what makes human life so interesting.
It is.
Yeah. So when we're aware that the body is the vehicle for carrying the soul, we're also aware we have a conscious mind. So that's for short-term memory. It's very analytical. It's very judgmental. It often dominates our everyday life. But we also have a subconscious mind. It's not critical. It's not analytical. It presents our absolute truth. It knows what it knows. It will free itself from negative programming. It's like our sixth sense. So it remembers everything from every time period, and it does present creative solutions. So the subconscious mind is our link in a regression. So I work with the past life regression deep memory process. They have subtle differences on how they meet to have a session.
What are those differences?
With past life regression is through guided meditation. Deep memory process often works directly through the body in order to access the understanding.
Okay.
That's sort of in simplicity, the differences that sit there. And when you meet your client, you'll have an understanding of how you need to be with them and how you need to actually hold the session with them.
Yeah.
Are they going to be on the table being guided in by a guided meditation, light hypnosis, or are we going to work directly with the body and actually play out the lifetime as it occurs? It's a very deep resonance. Some people are not ready for that depth, others well and truly are. So I gradually work into what is best for the client in the moment and as we progress into other sessions. Yeah. So the subconscious is basically, we can call it the higher self. It records and files all our soul memories. And they're present in every incarnation, like it's all sitting there for us to access if we so desire.
Good, the bad and the ugly, right?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And with the past life souls, they're present as unfinished business. We may see it as irrational fears, as phobias, patterns that just don't appear to want to change. So we're really feeling their emotions, we're manifesting their talents, we're thinking their thoughts, we're limited by their fears, we perpetuate their quandaries, and yet we're in conscious mind and we're unaware. We just don't consciously know that this is playing out for us. All that's unresolved from other lifetimes sits there with us, and yet we don't have the awareness and work that you and I do. So we may have memories that get stored in the subconscious, and often they create blocks. So examples of that is that in present life, we may have this immense fear of drowning. We don't comprehend or understand, why am I so frightened of getting out of my depth and going into the water? Why do I fear that I'm going to drown? And then we find that as we go through a past life, we actually drowned in a past life, and the residue still sits there within us. Or we may be incredibly claustrophobic, and then we realise as we do a session that we suffocated in a past life. We may have a lot of weight that seems to be on us, and then we realise that in a past life or many lives we starved or we were mistreated. Or then we understand, I just don't know why I can't speak up, why I can't say what my beliefs are. Then we discover in a past life we were ridiculed, we were persecuted for stating our beliefs. That all sits there within us potentially. So we have wounds and unhealed traumas we experienced at a soul level in past lives, and they are contributing to our present, our current life experience. We see trauma as a scar that won't heal, and we believe that we are unable to heal it. We try all sorts of things to work with trauma, and yet it still stays present with us. And it begins to come out as several complexes and issues in life. So some of the things that may appear as traumatic events or symptoms, the experience we have may be chronic dissociation. I'm going to read these out.
Yeah,
anxiety, phobias, fears, hypervigilance, inhibitions, paranoia, mental confusion, neurosis, avoidance, armoring, rigidity, suppression of emotions, emotional and physical numbness, and compulsions. And they're just a few of what may be occurring and presented as trauma. Society will call it trauma, but where do we actually go with that? So what our normal human response to trauma is that we either fight or we flee. That's healthy. That's a natural response to trauma. But if the person becomes overwhelmed or defeated and can't escape, it becomes freeze. That's something I discovered many years ago with the work that I did on my personal self. I knew that it wasn't that I would fight or flight. It was like I didn't move. And then I came to understand that I actually went into a freeze response.
Like a deer in the headlights kind of.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's like an action that's not been completed. So it freezes and we're left with it there. And even though it may have happened 20 years ago, it remains present with us in its same format, in its same way. Yeah. So really it's like the psyche is split off and it's frozen in time. And this occurs this life and in other lives.
Right.
And it may be the repetition of what's occurred over many past lives still appearing in this life. It's again being presented. It's asking the soul, it's asking us as humans to do the work to clear it. But we need to clear what came before in other lifetimes in order to come back and clear what's occurring in this lifetime.
So would we need to go back and clear every single lifetime when we've sort of felt frozen, or would we go back to the originating cause of it in the first place and focus on dealing with that?
Hopefully you go to the origin, but we may have to work through several lifetimes in order to clear the trauma.
And would that depend on a soul's ability or willingness to be able to go right back to the core issue?
Yes. Because it's a frozen impulse, it can be quite a journey to be able to meet it, and then to be able to clear it, to come back and realise its impact in this lifetime. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Do you ever have regressions, Robyn, sorry to interrupt, but do you ever have regressions where somebody goes back and experiences something very beautiful because that's what their soul needs to experience? I might be getting ahead of you here, sorry.
Yeah. And I am actually going to, we do have positive lifetimes. We can have many positive lifetimes, and that they are the lifetimes when we begin to learn what our talents are, what we want to advance as those talents. Yes, we have positive past lives. I remember Patricia always had a session where we met a positive lifetime, where we actually fell in love, where we were in love all of that lifetime. Like it was like, here is the perfect lifetime. And we've all had them because that's part of the clearing for soul. Yeah, to know that we're honoured, acknowledged, love. That's all potentially sitting there. It's not all about trauma, but it is important that we work with the trauma in its wider context, just to advance our soul, because we're here on this earth to advance soul. Yeah. And we're meet soul right at this point in time, right where we are now, so that we can clear for soul. Next steps can be taken from the present into the future.
Yeah.
That's what it's about.
Beautiful. It's beautiful. And it's so encouraging to know that we have within us the seeds of those beautiful lifetimes as well, that we can tap into as a resource, you know, as much as sort of lessons, if you like, that we've learnt from our suffering as well.
Absolutely. Yes.
We're such complex beings, aren't we?
We are very complex beings. You are completely right. Yeah. So with regression, we're wanting to access the memories or the trauma at whatever stage they appear on soul's journey. Soul will know when we do the regression. Soul will know where to take us.
Right.
So it's always
the moment that we're in our current life, the soul needs to experience this from a past life. The soul knows what's best and won't take us to what we can't handle, basically.
No. There's an element of people being willing, but I believe when someone like yourself chooses to come and experience a past life, you're already indicating to me you are ready to go deeper and to know more and to create the clearings. Yes, there may be that, I'm a little bit frightened, but that's okay. It's how I'm not there creating your past life for you, but what I'm there for is to hold a safe place for you to have your journey.
Yes.
So when we go into the past life, I'm able to know when to keep you within a particular part of that past life, whether to go back in that life, whether to go forward. I'm there as a guide. I am the guide holding the place. You're having your past life. I'm not creating it. It is yours. It is uniquely yours. Yeah.
There's something very beautiful about having someone hold your hand through that process too, because it can be, you know, very, in first time especially, it can be a little bit scary because you don't know what to expect. And having someone there holding your hand, knowing that there is safe space is actually really beautiful and important, I feel. You know, I guess we're kind of talking about this now, but I did want to hone in on the idea of to this can help people and who it can help. I think it's kind of important to realize there's benefit in this. It's not just finding out a story, but in what ways can it sort of change us for the better?
Yeah. So I'm really wanting to express that regression is facilitated and guided, not suggested by the therapist, because you know the soul agreements are yours. All of the experience within the past life is truly yours. I'm there as guide. I hold the space for you to have your journey. And the other important part is that we're removing deep emotional past life blockages, and we need to really experience those. Someone could tell you, this is your past life. And I know there are some very clever people who can read that and tell people this is what occurred for you in a past life. What we do is, and what I do is to actually remove those emotional blocks. That's what the experience is about. We have to go to that depth. We can be told all sorts of things, but until we experience them, we don't necessarily embody them. Yeah. So we're reviewing lifetime events. We're feeling the emotions attached. And our higher self will tell us what the particular situation is. And for you as the client, you are taking responsibility for yourself by seeking regression. You are desiring to know who you are, why you're here, and what's my soul's journey.
Yeah, that's right.
That's really important. I basically say regression is is here to help and guide people. This is for all who have birthed, stand on this earth. So it's for everyone.
Yeah.
There are no exemptions. This is the reason we're here on earth, is to understand what is our soul's journey and keep advancing soul's growth. We just happen to have come into the body that you have and the body that I have to have that experience. So I simply say regression is here to help everyone. And sure, some people have deeper lives than others. Some people have more horrific experiences than others. But each one of us is here for that reason.
I get asked that a lot, actually, as an astrologer. Why am I having the life that I'm having? What is the reason why I've suffered so much? And you mentioned, probably touched a bit on that when you were talking about the victim idea later on. You know, my perspective on it is that this is just one of many, many lives. And it was just the lesson that the soul needed. And it doesn't mean that you are perpetually caught, I don't feel, in a cycle of abuse or victimization. That it's just a part of the cyclical process of going through all experiences, the divine wanting to have a human experience and know what it is to be human in all its forms. So, yeah, sorry, I interrupted you there.
No, you said it beautifully. Thank you. Thank you very much. And as I said before, we've all got unfinished business, but we volunteered to come. We stood on that precipice just before conception, knowing that that's why we were going back. We don't necessarily know as we birth as the innocent child, but the journey is there for us to have. Are we going to be on the journey? Some people choose not to be.
Yeah.
They come to the end of their life and say, well, what was that all about?
Yes.
And I say quietly to myself, there will be a return because there is more to learn. Yeah. You know, that can happen. I had a cousin who suicided, took his life. I understood in the moment why he chose that journey, but I deeply know that he will return to complete his understanding.
Yeah. And certainly having an awareness that this is the life we're living now is a part of the cycle. In a sense, that knowledge takes the sting out of the suffering that we go through in this lifetime. You know, it makes it not more meaningful, but it makes it more able to embrace acceptance of what is when we realize that. So how did you come to be practicing as a past life regressionist, Robyn? What led you to this point?
Well, it's interesting because I was born in Bendigo. I know that's, you know,
yes,
Bendigo.
That's my current stomping ground. It may not be forever if I have any say in it.
It's a very conservative environment. So I was born into a life in Bendigo. I had mum and dad, and I had an older brother. This was back in the 50s, so I was a child in the 50s. In the 50s, children were seen and not heard. I was quite in the early stages, quite an outgoing little girl. All my aunties have told me how outgoing I was. But then as time moved on into my teenage years, a lot of changes occurred. I became quieter and more introverted. I became more about studying and what can I be. You know, it was all within that sort of human space. And I know now that from the outside looking in, my family appeared a normal, happy family, but below the surface there were secrets. And I became aware of how much my uniqueness and brilliance was crushed. And that trepidation for my pure existence I know my innocence was exploited and denied its pure expression. And I carried these secrets for much of my life. And then as I had my own family and followed my work dreams, I suddenly realized, actually, this life is not a burden. That what I was being given as I worked more and more on myself was a gift to share with humanity. And I found my life's purpose. That's exciting.
Yeah, very beautiful.
So I had to work with this. I had to allow the journey that was necessary. And as I moved through that, I began to develop a very calm sense of life and myself. And I began to understand the purity and the gifts inherent on my journey. You know, I was given my gift, my life purpose. Yeah. And in my early days, I was a kindergarten teacher, I was a primary teacher, and I ran a childcare business. And I didn't put in there actually that I also ran a bed and breakfast, but that
you've done it all.
Yeah.
Very fourth house oriented, children and home and hospitality. That's fourth house in astrology.
Yeah. And I did do home-based childcare at one stage too. So there was a lot, because to me, what came forward for me was that innocence, that childhood innocence, the caring for the child within us.
Yes.
Became really important as I worked with clients, because each one of us has that child, that innocent child within us. And my early life, my innocent child was exploited. So I had to work with that so I could keep taking the steps. And it gave me new hope. It gave me, I began to see the meaning of this new consciousness, and that my innocence was actually one of my strengths.
Yes.
Because I could meet that innocence in others, and I knew how to be with it because I know what it was like to be exploited. So I chose my family. I know that now, having done this work. I chose this journey. I chose my family. They were the ones who were going to teach me the steps for this lifetime, the steps for my soul's understanding. So, and I'm a mother of 4 children. So within the upbringing of my 4 children, I learnt what the innocence, how pure it was, what pure love was. I was given the opportunity to have the experience with my children that I didn't get myself as a child. And I've also got 10, nearly 11 grandchildren. So I'm expanding that experience. It's exciting to be able to experience who I am, meeting all these beautiful new souls, you know, our new age children, the new consciousness. Yeah. There they are before me. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it was this beautiful mother energy that I think drew me to you and gave me that feeling of safety with you to do this process. It's a tremendous gift, that nurturance, that protection that comes with like mother energy. It's a beautiful quality, Robyn.
Yeah. Thank you. So I began to look, I decided to begin to branch out and do something beyond the teaching and the childcare work. A few situations had changed the possibilities there. And I did a person-centered counselling course, and it was profound, but I said, it doesn't take us far enough. So I began to explore alternative therapies. So I did a visual intuitive healing course, so working with entities, cords, curses, soul fragments, chakras, all of those things, soul agreements, psychic attacks. So I began to understand how they were stored in the body and how we could work with those. And I can still use that intuitive healing as part of the past life process. But then I did a past life regression therapy course, first of all with the Tony Riley Institute, and that's when I fell in love. I had met my expression and my pathway. This was my journey. It was like I'd arrived.
Yeah.
I was ready to explore. And then excitingly, I was able to also do the training with Patricia in deep memory process. So that's all the Roger Walker work. In fact, whilst we were doing the training, Roger passed away. So it was quite a profound moment in that process. And Patricia is immensely inspiring and just allowed another layers and layers to open up on how to work with past life regression and, you know, deep memory process. Their words, their names, they all blend into the same thing. Yes. The other thing I did was the psychosomatic therapy, which I really love too. I incorporate parts of this into my work, so that this is face and body and psych reading. So it's reading all of the body, being aware of what's happening in all of the body. And I begin a session with a face reading. And because our whole body's represented in the face, we're actually meeting at that first stage someone, the depth of who someone is.
Right.
Yeah. And you do, you can take a photo and do a face split.
Yes.
I'm not sure. Did I do that?
Yeah. You did that with me in my second regression session with you. Yeah. It was fascinating. Absolutely fascinating.
Yeah. So I did that training with us, the Institute, through Sean Jago. And in fact, I also create workshops for the psychosomatics too. Sean's a teacher. So that's another thing that I do with my life.
Few irons in the fire, yes.
Yeah. And I'll talk a little bit more about the face reading in a moment. Yeah. The other thing that I did was I trained in the liquid crystals with Justin Makara-Saar. These are vibrational healing crystals, so they're a beautiful component at the end of a session, creating a crystal pathway to support the process that the client's just been through. So they're 21-day cycles, or they're 21 days taking and then a 7-day of integration. So the person, you know, that has been able to have the session, and as they integrate all from the session, they've got the support of the crystals too. So it's a beautiful flow on process. Yeah.
Because it's not, and this is something I found in both of the regressions I've had with you. It wasn't just what happened in the moment, although that was very powerful and very profound. It's what comes after that is really life-changing. I might briefly, if it's okay, tell.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
It might be a bit oversharing, and please forgive me if people think I'm oversharing.
No, I'm very happy. I'm very happy. It's exciting.
Well, I'd always sort of had issues around relationships, you know, not feeling worthy, not feeling good enough, feeling like I had to give, and, you know, sort of be a bit of a doormat kind of a thing. And these were some of my particular issues that I'd carried, I think, for a very long time. And when I had my first regression session with you, Robyn, what I saw was very traumatic. Was a young child who was had a beautiful sort of first 6 years of her life, and then ended up being taken to a place where she was severely abused and mistreated, and just treated like dirt, basically. Horrible sexual abuse and so on that went on, and that was really shocking to see and experience that. But thank God I was with you, because I was held in that space of love. And then at the end of the session, when you took me to the Bardo state, the overwhelming sense of love that came into that particular part of the regression, it blew me away. And I didn't want to leave. I'm like, no, you're trying to pull me out of that particular state or end the session. I was like, no, I don't want to come back. I'm staying here. This is so beautiful. And that was magnificent. But what happened afterwards, I don't know if I've ever actually told you this, Robyn, but that evening was the evening of my parents' 50th wedding anniversary, and they were going out to a big flashy restaurant, or actually quite a fun restaurant, I should say, in the Dandenongs in Melbourne, known as the Cuckoo. Most my people from Melbourne will be familiar with the Cuckoo. Yes. And So we were all going there for this dinner, and this this is where I get into the oversharing. I had my period, and that was done and dusted, and I thought, yeah, okay, I'm fine. Okay, get dressed, go out to the dinner, and lo and behold, halfway through the dinner, I'm like, oh, I can't get up. I'm not going to be able to leave my seat, because everything had just been released out of my body based, I believe, on what I had experienced in that regression session, dealing with sexual issues and the tension and the issues that had been held in my sexual organs, my reproductive organs, for probably lifetimes, suddenly were, and I thought, I can't get out of my seat. This is going to be very awkward. But if anyone who's familiar with the cuckoo knows how they operate up there, it's a sort of Swiss kind of restaurant, and they get people up to sing and yodel and do all sorts of stuff. Guess who was picked on to get up and yodel? And they don't let, because everybody says, no, I don't want to get up and yodel in front of everyone, stand up there and what have you with the microphone. So they're used to people saying no, and they won't take no for an answer. Can you imagine my complete embarrassment? It was the most humiliating experience of my life, and now I'm sharing it with the world. But I did want to share. I felt it was important, because what happened after that regression session was equally as important. And from then on, from that moment on, I went and I dealt with my issues physically that were a result of those past lifetimes. I've since had a hysterectomy and, no longer have those concerns. I can go to the cuckoo with a peaceful mind now. But it was just that life-changing for me, that the physical issues, the endometriosis that I had suffered with my whole life, finally there was an answer for it. There was a reason why these sorts of issues had always been a problem in my life. And finally, they were dealt with. They were gone. It was done. Mm-hmm. So the flow on from that regression session, I just want to illustrate through rather oversharing, was just so powerful. So sorry, I've gone off on a tangent there, but you're right when you say there needs to be follow-up of care and nurturance, because it's not just the session that's going to impact you, it's your whole life that will be changed and blessed because of it.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
I don't think I had heard that.
It's pretty, no shame, that's me.
You were able to see so much more of you. Even getting up and doing that was a profound moment for you, even though you may have felt everyone's looking at me.
Yeah.
Really, you were experiencing all of who you were in that moment. You were sharing out who you were and what you had learned about how you needed to be for yourself.
Yes, so and my ability to yodel as well.
Even though you've had those physical experiences, they were all talking, that's the release that will occur. And yes, we have to be kind and nurture ourselves. Maybe going and singing at the cuckoo was a big step, but it is about also continuousness, not stopping living your life, but what you experience are more and more realizations of what that was about, and you feel the releases in your body. It's a continuing process. It doesn't stop with the session. It continues on. And now that I have the liquid crystals to work with, it just helps with that deep nurture. I'm really excited to be able to use them.
Yes.
As a practitioner of liquid crystals. Yeah.
So a lot of people that I know, and we've talked a little bit about this, they're somewhat fearful of regression work. I was talking with a client recently who was saying, I really want to get it done, but I'm just so scared, Perhaps it would help if we stepped through what happens in a session. What can people expect in a session?
Yeah. I always do pre-work before I see a client. It helps me to get to know who they are from different aspects, different modalities. So I do numerology work based on birth date. I do North Node work, so direction that they're heading.
Yes.
And I do the crystal work, looking at their personal pathways as well, so the shadow purpose, higher purpose. And what I'm doing is just finding out components of who they are. I'm creating a pre-understanding of who I'm going to meet. And I always begin a session with the face reading, with the face split, and we've had a little bit of a conversation about that, because when we do it, we get the whole image of the right-hand side of the face and the whole image of the left-hand side of the face. So you're able to see visually how you're operating within yourself and how you're expressing outside yourself.
Because one is the masculine and one is the feminine, right? And when you see it all as a singular face, like I'll just explain to people, you take a photo and split the face in two and then sort of flip the left side out to become a full face. And it's profound. You can see, like for me, I remember seeing how my masculine side was in overdrive. I could just see the tension and I must, provide and be masculine, and it was full on. And the feminine side of me was like the little girl, she needed to start stepping up a bit. And it was fascinating to see the masculine and feminine side of me represented so clearly.
And what's so beautiful is you sit there with someone having this experience. It's a beautiful way for me to be able to connect with my client. It opens up a deeper part of who they are. And sometimes it's the first time someone has actually seen them. It is such a deep experience that it's the first time someone has seen them. It helps to create a connection, a beginning connection, to feel safe, to continue that journey. Because we're aware of how someone communicates internally, externally, but we're also seeing that beautiful uniqueness of who they are. And when you go to when you're having a second session and you've already had a face split done and you get another one done, you can go, look how much I've changed from when I had this first one to where I am now. Look at the work I've done in between, and here is where I am now. So you're visually seeing the progress of what's occurring for you. It's a very, very powerful process. And because the whole body's represented in the face, we're actually reading all of who someone is. Yeah, it's very exciting work.
It's amazing what you do in a session, actually. I know your sessions are 3 hours long and really go deep, like tremendous value for money, but there's just so much in it, so much substance in what you do with people in that extended period of time. It's beautiful.
Yes. And to me, it's important to have that depth. I'm honouring the person who's come to sit before me. I want to honour their journey, their uniqueness and their journey. So we create that more intimate connection. It is the first time someone truly sees you. I know I've had that experience myself when I first had a face reading. It was so profound that I want to be able to use this beautiful work to expand the regression work. I ask several questions, is one of the ways I approach it. So what I'm wanting to hear when I have that introduction, the face reading, and then going on to what I call intake questions, I want to hear the person's language. And the more language I hear, it helps us to move together, both of us, to create the intention of what the client wants to work with. So we'll be talking about significant events in life, in the adult life, in childhood, the sorts of messages we received from parents, from what they said to us, and other people that were significant. Any painful memories, any fears, seeing repeating patterns, defeats and disappointments, just hearing the language as someone speaks about their childhood, their adulthood. And we start to hear some of the we'll call karmic scripts that people play out in life. And actually I've got some of them sitting here. They're the sorts of scripts like, I always have to be alone. I give and give and everyone just takes. There isn't enough time. I'm not accepted for who I am. I always feel like a failure. People always let me down and betray me. I don't know who I really am. When someone's speaking and sharing with me, I hear those scripts coming out over and over again. So we're working towards what is it that the client truly wants to work with. We've heard these karmic scripts being spoken. What's the depth of what they want to work with? So that when we go into a past life, we go in with an intention of what to work with. We don't necessarily go in, we can, but we don't necessarily go in with, oh, well, let's just see what happens. Mm. We go in with a point, I suppose, a point of reference.
Yes. Yeah, and that helps too. Like, cause I've done some stuff with Brian Weiss, and yes, where it's just sort of just jump right in. What are we having? An regression? What are we going to see? And it's wonderful. I love Brian's work. He's amazing. But what yes, you do is just so much deeper, because there's all that preparatory work that allows you to focus on an issue at hand, and that's what you go in to resolve through the regression yes, work, which I think is far richer than just sort of, you know, doing a little meditation and hoping that you see something. Yeah.
The other way you can meet within the past life is actually to go through with, to go into the body where you may have had a particular injury. I mean, you spoke also about your endometriosis, so you can begin that as the beginning point, where you may have always had a sore shoulder or bad neck or bad back. So you actually go through that as the beginning point. That's more of the deep memory process, how that operates. I had a lady up in Townsville, and she had particular physical issues, a lot of pain, and we entered in through that area, and she worked with it, and we came out to the finish of the session, and I still remember her sitting up and looking at me with this look of disbelief, and she said, "All of the pain has gone, Robyn." And I said, "Congratulations." And she couldn't quite comprehend why I was congratulating her, but this is what it's about. She did the work. She was prepared to meet it and then to clear it. Yeah. That's just so important. And to this day, that pain has never come back.
It's magnificent. Oh, yeah. I love stories like that. Love stories like that.
So do I. Yeah. Oh. So once we've created the intention, then we go to being on the table or on a couch.
Now you work with Skype and Zoom and so forth now, like you can.
I do now. I used to do the person to person, but with the present life situations, and that, you know, I'll go back to doing that too. But I think this particular time in history, because I came to work more and more with the Skype and the Zoom. Yeah. And I'm just absolutely so excited just how amazing it is. It is like you are there with the person the whole way.
Because everything is energy. You don't have to be in the same space.
Absolutely. And that's what was so exciting for me, to see the depth of the shifts. And I mean, I've even had people sitting up in a car doing it, because they, in present conditions, they can't get the privacy in the house. So and they're just having these amazing experiences on their behalf. Yeah, the work just excites me, because I can see the expansion that occurs within being able to have all the different frameworks to work from. Yeah. So
So you were saying somebody will get up on the massage table,
they on the table, or they might be reclining in a chair. I've learned through the Skype Zoom that it really doesn't matter where you are, it still works. Yeah. And I make it very clear to the client that I'm not controlling the process. It's going to be a guided meditation. It's very light hypnosis, but it's that alpha state, like how we are when we first wake up in the morning.
Yes.
That first moment when so at no stage are you asleep, but what you are, you're not working within the conscious mind. You've moved into the subconscious. Yes. So on the table, I take people through, it's a meditation that I take them through. I work with relaxing the parts of the body, and then we go into the meditation just to allow people to know how to move within the space as well, because it's a completely different space to be in. Eventually, through the meditation, we come to be standing before 3 doors, one to the left, one to the right, and one in the middle. And you as the client chooses which door you want to go through, and when we go through that door, I will say the intention that you're wanting to work with. And so you step through, and then you're in the lifetime. So my role is to hold the space, to keep it a safe space, to know whether to stay where we meet at that point in that lifetime, whether to move backwards or forwards. It's all about creating the understanding, to go deep, to meet that essence. This is a part of who you are. It's a part of your soul's journey. So we work through the lifetime, and we get to a point of the death, because that life has already been completed. We're going back to meet it. We will reach a point where there's a death. It may be a quiet death, it may be a violent death. What's important at that point in time is that the soul knows it's left the body, that you can actually look down and see the body. You can see those last moments.
I know, it's amazing.
And sometimes we stay and we work with that, because there can be fear, there can be uncertainty. Where do I go now? I've just experienced a deep suffering. Eventually we move into the Bardo state. I call it, this is a safe place to be. This is where we can do the work. This is where we do the work that
I love the Bardo state. I love it. I just want to live there. It's so nice.
And so we're working, so we're going to work with the lower Bardos and then move into the higher Bardos. And in the lower Bardos, we can call in anyone from that lifetime you've just experienced to create resolution. If there's been a traumatic death, we work with healing the physical traumas, healing the subtle body. We have the opportunity to have reunion with lost loved ones from that lifetime, so we can call them in at a soul level and re-meet, have the conversations that we need to have to create understanding. It's like this gigantic reunion. It's quite beautiful. There was a belief at the end of the lifetime they would never see those souls again, and here they are re-meeting them, able to have the conversation. They can also call in the perpetrators from that lifetime and have a dialogue with them, ask them questions, create understanding. Some really profound understandings come out of that conversation. Sometimes the person says, no, I just want them to move on. Others are prepared to have the conversation and create the understanding. And whilst this is occurring, this is the constant clearing in those lower bardos. Sometimes the soul needs to offer forgiveness to those they may have hurt in that lifetime. So they ask those people to come in. Sometimes people haven't understood why mother sent them to an orphanage and they were badly treated. They're able to call mum in and say, why did you make that decision? Why did I go there? And suddenly creates understanding and can create the healing and the reconnection that's so important, that innocence within the soul. Sometimes it's just about completing desires. This is what I desire. This is what I want. I want this and I want this, and I want to be able to experience it. I didn't experience it in that lifetime. Can I experience it now? And there might be just complete catharsis, just really just being able to clear all that needs to be cleared.
Yeah.
It's a freedom to explore. And then there's a point where we can move into the higher bardos, and you absolutely know that point. Because it's quite spontaneous. It feels like that first moment of recognition, of liberation. And in that space, there's the comfort to do an overview of the past life, be able to understand what was that life about, what have I learned from it. The whole consciousness becomes lighter. It's spontaneous. There's that deep feeling of unconditional love and grace that sits within it. It can be really intuitive. And there's the ability also to get all those questions, those unknowns that want to understand you can refer to higher beings, and we all have our own higher beings that we connect to and feel safe with. It's all about, I'm learning my life lessons. I will be able to take this back to Ksenia in her present lifetime, and she is then able to take the steps to move on. This is her soul's journey.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
And also just resurrecting old fragments, because they're the ones that have been frozen. They're the impulses that are frozen, wanting to bring those back. It can be a very joyful and peaceful place before we come back to being with the client in present time. Sometimes I may, if I feel I need to, I may use some intuitive healing, so just clearing within the body that things that I see sitting there that I believe need to be cleared. Often working with the clearing of chakras or anything that I still see sitting within the body. And then we come back into present day consciousness, and there's that moment of, wow,
Yes.
me. Yeah. So we're back in present day consciousness, and the client often wants to recap and just ask some questions, create some understandings. It's like it begins that sort of opening and exploration of what it was about, understanding how does that fit into my current life. My goodness, what am I feeling like? The lady up in Townsville, the pain's gone. I feel lighter. I feel like I can take the steps now. I feel like I know my journey, or maybe I need to do a little bit more work here, but I'm open and prepared to be able to take the steps to do that. And that can go on. Those insights can go on for the next hour, for the next days. That's why I like the liquid crystals, because they help to support the process at that point in time. And what's so exciting, the changes are noticeable. You can see them. The client can deeply feel them.
Yes, they can.
It's an amazing transition.
It's incredible. It's incredible.
Yeah.
Have you ever come across someone who was not able to be regressed, that wasn't able to go into that state?
I had one gentleman who's just come back to me because he wants to do some more work, and he's in a huge transition at this point in time, because he is learning to take the steps of understanding himself, because he is in transition to leave Earth. And he did struggle with it. He was a gentleman in his 70s, so he had overlays of what life had told him how he needed to be, you know, and religious beliefs and those overlays. And if that moment occurs, then I begin to do the work on the body. And it was quite profound, because when I
energy work, is it, Robyn, that you do?
Yes, the energy work, yeah. And so when I came to hold his feet, he told me later, it was profound. He actually felt the clearing occur at that point in time. He actually found himself. So he showed me that what I had done with him, he believed he didn't go anywhere, but he did. And just to connect with him at the end of the session in a physical sense, with a healing within the body, brought him to the profound moment of realising what it is he deeply desired.
Yeah.
And that was touch.
Yeah. Yeah. Fascinating.
Yeah.
But
most people get to the point where they are able to go there, because it really is such a natural process anyway. Yeah.
That's fascinating, actually. I did a session last year with Brian Weiss when he came out to Australia, and he was saying 50% of people are unable to go into regression first time. And I thought, oh, I always found it like really easy just to go into that. But I think it was the quality of the space that you were holding, you know, that made it just so safe and able to be done. So I'm not surprised at all, Robyn, to hear that you've only had one person that's struggled with it out of all your many, many clients, because it's a different experience than when you try to self-regress, I think. Very different.
Yes, absolutely. And I think it's also difficult to do the regressions in big groups.
Yeah.
It needs the intimacy of...
I agree.
Of client with the practitioner. Absolutely. Yeah.
I totally agree. So that's what people can expect when they go through a session with you, which is absolutely wonderful. I want to mention that you are offering your services through the Guiding Star website that I run, and I'm so excited about that. And you are too. I know. It's just, I think this has been many years in the making, actually, Robyn, probably since 2012 when I first came to stay at your B&B. Spirit has taken its time. But you're running, well, I want to run a special, actually, for the first 3 people who book with Robyn to have a session, to do a past life regression. I want to offer a free ebook for the first 3 people who book with Robyn of the Patricia Walsh book, because I know most people who watch this channel, they're into astrology. They're also interested in healing and bettering their lives as well, which is often why people get into astrology in the first place. But yeah, this is a book that covers both regression work and astrology and how they tie in together. There's a lot of example charts. There's a lot of explanations. So I've got all these tags for how my past life regression experiences show up in my chart, and it's just a wealth of information. You have this book too, don't you, Robyn?
Yes, I do. Yes. Absolutely.
It's wonderful. So for the first 3 people who book with Robyn, you'll get an ebook that I will send you of this particular wonderful astrology / regression book. So do head over to the website, jump online there, and the link is in the description below to pop on over and book your session with Robyn as soon as possible. And make sure you get in first.
I am so excited. I'm so excited.
Yeah. I mean, it's just wonderful that what you do can be offered now via the internet, via Skype. And I think that that's very, very... Is it Skype that you use, or Zoom? What?
I use Skype. I've just got into Zoom, but Skype I've used quite a bit. But I'm learning the Zoom. Yes. Yeah. I've done one wonderful session with Zoom. So yeah.
They both function in the same way, don't they? Really, like it's just connecting people. That's what it's all about.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm
Yeah.
learning my technology.
And good on you for jumping into that space. You know, it's wonderful. And certainly the way the world is heading at the moment. So it's just so fantastic that your work, regression work, can be done from where you live in Melbourne to anywhere in the world. And I think that's very, very fantastic. And certainly because everything is all energy and all interconnected, it just works beautifully.
Yeah.
So I want to thank everybody for tuning in and joining us for this conversation today. I have been so thrilled to share Robyn with people. I've been wanting to do this for a long time. So very, very grateful for your time, Robyn. Very grateful for you joining me on my platform. Thank you to everybody who's joined us for this session. And I look forward to having some more interesting Sunday sessions for you. So keep tuning in and I'll catch you then.
Love to you, Ksenia, and everyone who's watching. Yeah, thank you.